to our dynamic program which honors, celebrates living legends. We are in a city that is filled with history. Many times, history that goes unacknowledged, other times, histories that are celebrated. Seldomly, however, do we celebrate people who are still alive. Seldomly do we celebrate those people who are still alive who actually impact upon the grassroots community. This endeavor, the Living Legends program, strives to do the latter. We want to acknowledge and celebrate those people who have impacted upon the city of New Orleans and our communities, the communities that have been historically neglected. So again, I welcome you to this auspicious occasion. This is also a King Weekend experience. Now, when we think of Dr. Martin Luther King, we must not forget the fact that he envisioned himself a grassroots leader. And so, in memory of that, and paying homage to him, we again acknowledge and celebrate the grassroots leaders of this city. Before we move forward, I'd also like to acknowledge those persons who have been rewarded and awarded this extremely important designation. Our first living legend from 5 years ago, Brother Malik Rahim. Brother Malik Rahim has toiled in the community for nearing 50 years. Soon after returning from Vietnam, he joined and helped start the New Orleans chapter of the Black Panther Party. Moving forward, Brother Malik Rahim became one of the consummate and reliable community developers. Right now, he is one of the leading environmental activists in the United States. Our second living legend is here in the area of arts and culture. For 40 years, this young man has endeavored to impact upon the theatrical community. He understands clearly that in order to raise a child, we must raise the whole child, the whole human being. And so, for 40 years, Anthony Bean has promoted art and culture through his Anthony Bean Community Theater Project. Brother Anthony Bean. He has also celebrated dancers in the community. People like Mariama Curry, Kulu Dance Company for children, and Capo Dance Company for adults. And last year, we celebrated and acknowledged the work of two dynamic women who have brought literature to the city of New Orleans. These two ladies launched the Community Book Center. Through the 30 years that they've been in business, many times they've gone into their own pockets to make sure that the company works and still offers literature by and for African American people. So last year we acknowledged and celebrated as living legends Jira Warren and Mama Jennifer. This year we have looked for and found a person who has impacted upon the health of African American people, but not just African American people, all people. This is a man whose acquaintance I met, I would say maybe 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, over 40 years ago. I was listening to WYLD FM radio station, and I heard a young man speaking about health disparities, health concerns, in a segment, a weekly segment called You and Your Health. It was done in concert with another young man who would do a similarly based media blitz concerning law in the African American community. That young man was the gentleman who is seated to my right, your left, Mthamisi St. Jude. But the gentleman who discussed health and our welfare is Keith C. Ferdinand. He also established a much-needed cardiovascular center in the Lower Ninth Ward. And when he did this, I may be incorrect when I make this next statement, he might have been one of the first people to do so, to establish a cardiovascular center in the middle of an African American struggling community. Now, he is an endowed chair at the prestigious Tulane University Hospital. You might be asking yourself, how is this man considered grassroots? Because here, in his heart and in his soul, he is still on St. Maurice Street in the Lower Ninth Ward. An extremely significant detail that we must accept, that no matter how high he gets, he's going to remain rooted in the Lower Ninth Ward, in the city of New Orleans, working on behalf of his people. I want to make a note. We are going to move Dr. Ferdinand's presentation until after the tributes per his request. We are moving his presentation after the tributes. At this point, I'd like to bring to the microphone my chancellor, the Chancellor of Southern University at New Orleans, Dr. James Amons.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for being here this afternoon for this special occasion in the life of Southern University at New Orleans and the greater New Orleans community. Today, we come together to celebrate our living legends, who not only have had a tremendous impact locally, but their work is being revered nationally and globally. And with that, I'm truly excited to welcome you to our event. As Dr. Robertson has said, today we honor our fifth living legend, Dr. Keith C. Ferdinand, for his diligent work in cardiovascular health aimed at improving the health of African Americans and other high-risk and underserved populations. And I want to thank Dr. Robertson, who is our director of the SUNO Center for African and African American Studies, for his work in organizing this academy. This is a part of our Lyceum program, which is a historic program at SUNO. I also want to thank members of our institutional advancement team and the Living Legends Committee, who went through this rigorous process of identifying persons who would be representative of this award and Southern University at New Orleans. I also want to thank Dr. Adriel Hilton. Dr. Hilton, when you stand, our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, who gives leadership to this Lyceum Committee and all of our student-related activities here on the campus. And I also want to thank Tulane University School of Medicine for allowing us to be here today to honor and celebrate Dr. Ferdinand. You know, for almost 67 years now, SUNO has been a beacon of hope for so many people in the New Orleans community. As this city's only public, historically Black university, we have a special role, a special responsibility in this community. And our goal here in 2023 is to become a leading urban university, a place where people look to for answers to critical problems, critical issues that confront the city of New Orleans and urban centers all across this country. One of the areas that we have decided that we will focus on is health disparities in this community and in communities like ours all across this nation. Many of you may know that we are also celebrating this year the opening of the SUNO Department of Nursing. We finally realized our long-term dream at our university of having a Bachelor of Science in Nursing program where we are going to produce some of the best prepared nurses of color that you will find anywhere. And so this goal that we have of being one of the nation's leading urban universities will be achieved through research, community partnerships, and collaborative programs that will bring this community together. And so again, we must always remember that we should pause and recognize those people who are important in this community and for our university. And so we're doing this today. And I want to thank all of you for being here, the community members, as well as our past living legends who have devoted their lives to the work of this community. People like Dr. Ferdinand. And I also want to thank some of our special guests here, and I have to recognize my former chancellor and also Senator Dr. Joseph Bowie. I want to thank you for being here. And if there are any other elected officials here, and I know that there are staff people from the offices of elected officials, and I want to thank you for being here representing the elected officials for whom you work. So again, the price of success is hard work. And so again, I want to thank you, Dr. Ferdinand, and I want to thank all of our living legends who are here with us today for all that you do to not only positively impact the New Orleans community, but the globe. Thank you and welcome.